So it's a sci fantasy realm, and this is the map that I've created for it. And the Red Witch, or the Red Witches, who are the ruling class, the queens of this land, live in this area right here. Right? This is the empire. Empire is three sections: this, and this. Last week, this was the dragon. Uh, I don't want to call them dragonborn, but the dragon worshippers, the dragon slayers. This is their land up here. To the west of that, they are the Red Witches of the West. And this is their area of the empire total. Now, the empire used to be all of this, more or less, but now it's just these. The empire proper. So the Red Witch is here, and their capital city is somewhere around here. So that, when I think about the map, I think about what they live, how they live, and all that. And so from there, I go to ideas. So this is the next step of my concept or my concepting journey. This is what I usually do, where I write out ideas. Right? I have the map. I thought of the map. I thought of what I want to make, and then I make an idea of everything. Just let it spill out. Everything you could think of. So what I thought of off the top of my head was that they're called the Red Witches, and that is sort of like the hierarchy of ideas. Red Witches, they have red hair and red eyes and pale skin. But we'll get into that in the references and then later. So I'm thinking futuristic Elizabethan era, right? So I'm thinking of, okay, so what are we thinking about this looks like? Because this is visual. We're drawing things and it's a visual medium. So we're trying to think of everything that can connect, that we're thinking about how this goes. So futuristic Elizabethan era, also some Victorian era spookiness. I'm also thinking dark, rainy, and spooky, right? And that's what I think of when I think of some parts of London and how that can influence Gothic and Victorian era stuff. So dark, rainy, spooky. They are the queens are tall, robust, pale fighters, right? They are like battle queens. They have a battle thirst and can get battle drunk. And then when that happens, their red eyes, they can cry red blood tears. I'm also thinking of the triple goddess, Queen Mab, just making up words of what they're like or what their city's like and things that can connect to them. So Hexoma, witch breed, Moriah, maybe a coven. Since they're witches sometimes I thought of as three, which again goes to the triple goddess. And maybe the queen is the centerpiece, but then on either side of her would be two others to make a trinity of sorts. Keeping with that triple goddess motif. Their war god or goddess is sort of like Athena or something of that type, or Hera, if that. And we're just thinking of ideas, anything that you can think of. The Grey City, which is the capital city that the Red Queens of the Empire work out of, Yakahera, or something like that. And I also, let's add, okay, so let's add something that I'm thinking of is their color scheme, which would be white, black, and red. That would be their color sequence or color schemes. White skin, red eyes and hair, and then they wear black. And I think that would make them stand out visually. So we're thinking of ideas that can translate visually. So once I have an idea of my ideas, I wrote them out, I'm thinking about it, and usually one idea can lead to another idea, and they can just keep coming. That also then leads to references. And of my references, I bring them in and everything I can think of. Right? I try not to go too crazy with references. I try to find 3 with a main point, right? And I'd say the 3 that are the main points of this whole thing would be, right, Elizabethan era in costuming, hairstyles. So I'm looking at red hair, Cate Blanchett, right? I love this costume. And I think of this costuming is how I want their style of dress, but maybe futuristic. So futuristic Elizabethan era costumes. And that's why I look to movies, because I love the costuming. And it grounds a character. Right? So I'm thinking of that. Red eyes. I like this image. Let's see. This image right here, I think, is a standout. Right. That is spooky. This is creepy. I really like this. The horns, the pale skin, the darkish clothing with some color accents. Right. This could be like a key idea or image for myself in the making of the concept. Right? So I usually have ideas that are more key to the idea or the initial concept that I can build off of. So I like that one. This one again. I can't remember what the Cate Blanchett movie was. It just called Elizabeth, I think. But Clive Owen. And that I love this costume. Cape over one shoulder. That's awesome. Leather boots. Right? The whole vest. That is great. So I'm thinking of ideas. And if they're wearing black, then having red highlights. Red highlights on the inside of the black would be a great idea. But then we're also thinking about the area. So I'm thinking of Bloodborne. This is a Bloodborne image and some backgrounds of that dark, spooky, rainy, slightly, I don't want to say slightly creepy, but like an idea of wet, rainy, spooky. That's the idea. And Bloodborne's Yharnam is an idea or a main idea for the city that they live in or that they rule out of. Right? And so we're also going to other sci-fi concepts. So the engineer from the Aliens movies, Prometheus in particular, that very pale skin, tall, slightly alien-like. I like that. The Dune, the Ginny Bezeret, and also the Harkonnen of Dune, the pale, right, pale skin, slightly alien-looking, clean, alien-like, kind of creepy because nobody should look this pale, deathly, I guess you could say. And then the Bene Gesserit as the costuming, if it's like a coven of witches, right? You have the main queen, and then on the other side of her would be more witch-like women and as attendants or something. Also, Merrin from Jedi. the Jedi video game. I like this look, right? The pale skin, maybe designs on the face, darker makeup that would emphasize the eyes, and that red, white, and black scheming. That is awesome. So reference. This is what I do when I reference gather. Anything I can think of, and usually one idea will lead to another idea, and then you just add it, whether you end up using it or not. Just add it to your concept, because you want just let it spill out of you. Let it come out. And so that's what I do for references. And after references, we did the text ideas, and that led to the references, whatever you can think of. And now we go to the actual drawing phase. And usually I start off with little gestures. So if it was the Red Witches and their battle witches, sort of battle mages, very good at fighting, and I figure the spear, if I'm thinking of Athena, I was thinking of woman, spear, fighter, maybe a shield, maybe not a shield, I don't know. But you're just trying to make little drawings that get your ideas out. And this is what I call my loose gestural. I'm just thinking of posing, right? Queenly, fighters, and all of that. And then after that, I usually select one, and then I isolate that and blow it up. And that's why I leave the space in the middle where I can work on it. And it's just chicken scratch. This isn't, right? This is just a step up from the gestural sketches on the side. And my concept, or my idea of concepting, is just going like you're drunk, right? Errant lines, just keep moving. Don't pause, don't erase, just draw. Be free with it. Things can look wrong, off, all of that. Doesn't matter. Just get it out. Just keep noodling and doodling. If you want to change the arm pose, if you want to change the limbs, head's too small, whatever. Just keep going. Just get it out. And then once I have something that I enjoy or I like, then I can go to the next step, which is, right, this is the cleaned up version on another layer. Right, I clean it up a little bit. It's still rough as heck, but it gets the point across of what I'm going for. And then I make a quick color study underneath. So again, pale skin, very bright, very saturated red hair, like it's abnormally so. And that's what I want for this, because it contrasts the white skin. Tall, robust, much like the engineers from Aliens. Whatever ideas you can think of, try to add that to a first. This is just a first pass. This is just me getting my ideas out. And then once I have the body, then I go into costuming. And the costuming, right, first I do a little drawing on top of all of this. And then I add the colors. So I want dark for the costuming, and then maybe a feather half boa or something, and then a red highlights, right, pops out the dark costuming of the figure. And then I thought, okay, if she's a witch, maybe she has a dress or a half dress. I want this to be asymmetrical, right? So it's like in two worlds, the battle readiness, but also maybe with a battle dress and maybe armor in certain places. But if we go into like when they're at war, they'd be fully armored up. But this would just be walking around the city as a demonstration of like partially battle ready power influence and whatnot. And so that is my process for concepting whatever new concept I have. And so that is what I do. So let's recap real quick. So first I thought about the world that they inhabit, right? The Red Witches of the West. And then I go to ideas. Where is it? Ideas, just quickly done. Whatever ideas, just get them out of your head and onto paper or whatever you're writing on. After that, I start to gather my references, just ideas, whether they're related or not. Sometimes the best ones are very far apart and it's just like your brain connects things. Get that all out. Have like 3 key ones: the red hair, witches, where they live, and then you can add to a menagerie around that. The Victorian costuming that I like. After that, we then go into the drawing phase. And again, you're just getting your ideas out with loose thumbnail sketches, and then after that, you work on the actual character. And now I have some idea of what I have, and I can now move on to the next stage, which would be to plus it. But that is my process. So I have been Trey Hodges. Thank you for joining me for this live stream test number 2. Power to all the creators, and I will see you on next week's live stream test number 3, where I think I'm getting the hang of this. I think I'm gonna find a groove with this. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, keep shining. Bye.